I could look at this image to be seen. Without the image being surfaced, there'd be no way to maintain the image of itself being seated. Now I could look at this image and say that when I look at this image, I'm only seeing for myself that the image can be maintained. And as I look at the image, there's only one way to say that the image can't just be seen unless I focus on what the image means. But still, the image can't be taken unless I find not for myself there ain't no such image. But then I could introspect on this image and make myself see in all different horizons that to speculate on vision would be a need to assert myself into differences or dividends of referring the interest. But as I look to myself, then I could only find that myself hasn't always been seen, unless I can't be taken to be allured. I couldn't find in myself what it means not for me to be, unless that I hadn't been where I could say I wouldn't see. Now I could look at the image and say the image is hard to see, unless I make a difference to occur, such as me. Then the image might be maintained to be separate from what we've seen. But as we look around the image, we could say we hadn't seen what the image maintained to be seated. Now we could say if we look at the image in this way, we'd find the image is maintained, but a thing has changed. Minus that symbol on the front, I'm sure, mate. Well, the symbol on the front could be the occurrence of a changing thing, but still we hadn't seen what we couldn't see, because it wasn't just because we hadn't seen, but now that we couldn't see, we'd only found ourselves to not be seen. And then we could say we wouldn't see, unless we could only say we hadn't seen. But then we could say we would see if we hadn't seen, because no such thing could be seen, unless one thing couldn't be seen. Now we could take this image and maintain it within the witnessing state, what some people could make. But we still wouldn't take ourselves to be seated before the day we could introspect on what it means to be meted. Now we can find within the distances, the space might be alluring. But as we could say, do we find the image? Or could we say that we haven't seen such a space? For I could say this is just one of my caps. You know, on this day, I'm wearing Earth Rotation and Norvik Nozzler 2187. And then I store that away. And I changed to this cap. For only is there I. And that's what I'm wearing on that day. The Sun Explorer, the Sun Inverter Taker, and the Sun Neuroptical, and the Vision Biter of the Sun Sener, the Sun Shower, the Sun Setter, and the Sun Seeder, the Sun Lower, the Sun Deeder, and the Sun Deeder. And no way could I take it any other way than what the sun would show me. Now you could say that nothing occurs without it myself being. But would it matter? To a lid. If the lid itself wasn't where you'd think it was. So I believe every flower pot needs a lid underneath. And then the flower, well, it grows. And so with the lid revealed, to not be inside of me. And when I've got my Sun Seeder on, my Sun Sener, my Sun Shower, and my Sun Deeder, then my Sun Deerer and my Sun Bleeder goes, well, my son could say today I've got this cap on, and this cap is showing to me that I have not heard the sound of the sun. Then the sun itself would say, am I blind to see myself? That only I could say I hadn't seen myself, unless I'm not showing myself what I hadn't seen. Now I could show myself that I had seen before the day I was seen. And without that being, I could only represent what I hadn't yet seen. Now we could say that honestly, before they, that day judged, then they were only judging their own fate, for no actions could take themselves as weak. Before they were made to be weak, then their weighted name wouldn't be made as taked. But still we make not the takings that no allured sage could be made out from. And as we look at that in many ways, you say in this documentary today, we're going to discuss many options. Some days of the week, it's like I fake myself, because I can't just be seasoned when I'm out there beated. And wait for Jack to come in. You know it's not the truth, yeah. You know it's not always out there. Sometimes it's fair, other days it's like, what do I wear? Then I choose just to dance on the dead. And I think about what it means to double in the fare. But I make it up like it's not my name. They still say it ain't that clear, mate. But that's when I think, was it just a bet that no one couldn't take? Or was it the name that no one could make? Was it the face that made it that way? Or was it the waves that everyone said, yeah, we checked it out on that day, heading for them gates? Now I look back to what it might mean, because I'm still there waiting on that day. I'm still there waiting on that day, till the day comes for me. I'll find out only that I don't mean to bring my spleen, but I think about what it is for me to sneeze, and I take what it means before a day might judge me. And I'm still looking at him go, maybe it's not just him, maybe it's not the way, maybe it's not just the face, maybe it's counter ridiculous and sometimes acted on me. But then I think about what it is, and I've only ever found myself a name before that day that I couldn't really change. Then I'd only open up and face, cause I don't know what it means today. And I'm still at the back and I'm never late, cause I haven't placed myself into the sight yet. But still I'm not there to be seen, because I haven't been mean. And as I look at this today, then I could say my name has never been about myself not being. Because I could say some days it's not about me, unless I haven't seen for myself what I wouldn't see, unless I couldn't say that I'd seen. Now some days you can allure yourself, as you could say on many days I could also allure myself. But till the days that I haven't been, then I wouldn't say that I couldn't take what no man has ever faced. Unless one could say to me that yes, we do say that some planetary systems are pretty flaked. But it's only that they sit in body level to one depth of dimension below themselves. And you can say that yes, some seem to run up the side where we get a different look at life. And even so that we look at life in a different way. Some days of the week, I'm carrying this weight around with me. And I ask my good fellow young Jet to look at this weight with me. And Jet knows me by name. That's right, Jet. Jet, have a look at this good weight with me. It looks like it's a certain say that no one can make. Because it's not there, Daddy. It's not there, is it, Daddy? What's not there? The lid's not there, Daddy. You got the lid exchange, Daddy. You got all open portals going, Daddy. You're saying that, Jet, I don't just have my counter 6 solar system operation in on at the moment. I've got my sun shader and releaser, every galaxy and solar system portal out there, all on top of the invertible lid section, don't I? That's right, Daddy. You've got them all stacked on top at the moment, Daddy. That's not good, Jet. What are you going to do, Jet? I don't know, Daddy. We have to wash this out, Daddy. You're living in Polo 69 at 72481 dimension, Daddy. That's not good, young Jet. What do you guys say out there? Well, mate, that's hard to view, mate. That's really hard to view, mate. You're saying right now, mate, your lid on your inverter, is standard operator. Yeah, mate, upside down inversioner, upside down inversioner, mate. Your lid's upside down on the crown there. It's going this way, not that way. That's right, mate, and this one on top. And that gives me my perceptual value of the depth that I'm seeing on that day. And then you just change the tops over. You just change the caps over and you're seeing a whole different dimension. Yeah, just change the tops over. That's minded blowing, brother. But I wouldn't say that myself, mate. I wouldn't say that myself, mate. Because it goes to ask then what's really in here. What's really in here? Well, that's where you must have the flower pot. Well, that's what I think. But still, I'm not sure. I see that, mate. I said it, mate. Now, that's just one dimension of lime. You've had a lemon lime bitter? A lemon lime beer? A lemon lime bitter, mate? Yeah, I haven't. Jet, you might have tried one? Yes, Daddy, I have, Daddy. Well, Jet, in the lime, or in the lemon, sorry, Jet, yes, Daddy, in the lemon there's a slight ting. That's right, to make the lime beat. So without the lemon being beated, there being no lime to make. Ah, okay. And that's just one dimension of lime. So all you have to do to change that dimension of lime is turn the shade on the sun sharer to 1 theta side. And it changes the whole dimension of plane. Then you've got a square squash. A square squash, whole different realm of importance. A beater taker. No, mate, that's not playing out, mate. All I'm trying to say here in this film and documentary is we shift and change our models of thoughts and theories every weekend. Just so that next weekend, we've got another ideology to run with. We get to the last weekend, and we're going, what were all those ideologies in the end? Then we realise they were just lollies after the parties were over. And we get to the end and we've got the munchies for something solid. And then we think about what we've made, and we realise that no such thing can be filmed, unless at the end of the day, someone with their upside down lid had a full, tunnel that's still extending out to the very sun shader. Headphones over. The part that goes into the bucket. Yep. The handle, so the handle comes down and over. Yep. And then he's feeding right in there. Everything that he's heard. It's just got microphone on it, recording everything right out there into the tunnel. He's got everything recorded and saved ever. And just because he hasn't taken one seat himself, that no man could establish his order. But they still say that with the reverse changer and topper lid, you can make out of yourself what you beated. But still, there's no way to make. Unless the day is that you haven't made. Because you couldn't be named. You couldn't be fake. You only took this way because you know the name ain't changed. I could self-sacrifice or self-sabotage. I could make out like it's not working for you. Today might only be this night. But some days of the week it's not just blind. Cause I don't look at the light unless it's live. And so then I see not the seed. I see not the problem. I see not the fathom in question. She should be shaped for the find. And when you look at the light, well, it looks like that funny old shape. Looks like a cube itself. That means it holds weight in diameter. You know, if it is cubic in sound, cubic in modelling, cubic in vision, it actually holds a weight of balance. Something that might be made as conscious or perceiving that itself is witnessed. And when you look into the light, are you taking in what you've seen? Or is that shape, that cube, the light inside of you, that's showing inside of you there's a cubic relation to what you can meter of the measuring of the light and the sound and the witnessing of an instrument? Just like this jolly good little cup. It's got diameter, it's got length, it's got sound, and it's got width. So it is volume weighted as a cubic grid. But when you take the lid and place it on top, then the lid is now proportionate to itself being seated, and it becomes weighted or sound solid and sound balanced. You can take the lid off and become once again cubic volume or volume weighted upon itself to be seated. You can fill it with anything. You can fill it with anything. But until it's got an actual lid on, it will never actually hold in person. Because some say that without lids and lids on the bottom instead, especially when the lid is the light, then it allows for radiation to come through and time can take itself until the day we have dated. But still the seated seasons aren't always made to be imaged to us. Unless we've conceived in reality that there's no way to make ourselves. Unless we haven't seen for ourselves what we couldn't say we wouldn't see. Unless we haven't seen. Now one day you could say to yourself that if I haven't seen, then what is it that I haven't seen? And if I couldn't see, then what would it be that I haven't seen? Now we can look through the philosopher's space dimension here, the dimension of line, and find a pattern of occurrence throwing modular around. We find no level of thought or security. But I can say we perceive not a dimension, the length of width, unless the width itself can't be sectioned into any actual season. And because it's volume weighted or volume related, then shadow aspects emerge. And at the same time, we see on top of the surface those dimensions being planed. And so inside it is seeming to be hollow, but the lid holds it in weight for all the shadows to appear as aspects within the miterings and tensions of the corners, which the witnessing of the premises might take itself to be seen. But still, we only see that there is distance between both relatives because of the place of dimension. And when the light allures us, then we can find in ourselves that there's only one way to be seen until the day we can't witness anything. But at that time, we couldn't say to ourselves that we haven't seen anything unless the light can't be disproportionate, because it wouldn't be secular to be seen unless out of dimension it became into distance to find within itself what we couldn't see. And that means that we can't just see unless we haven't seen what we say we couldn't see unless we hadn't seen. And then we could say we wouldn't see unless we hadn't seen what we couldn't say we would see. And without that being noted, we can only say that that distance occurs because of the volume-weighted atmospheres that protrude themselves. Whereas if I was to take this lid off and find within myself that there's no perfect meter to match, then I'd find within the witnessing there's no way to take myself before the day I've been seen. As witnessed in discovery, I find out for the noted that there's only one meaning to death when it's a relation. But that's what it'd be like with the lid off. Like a beat going through and passing it around. Until it finds myself a home, I won't be seated or seen to take the throne. You know my window isn't for the perfect stain. You can make up that something ain't just ought to be. But now I look at these and I could say, does it match your window if there's no sound to see? Now I know it's not the tame, I know it's not the tame, I know it's not the truth that you make, it's only the truth that you say. Until this day, you couldn't think what you made for me to believe. Now I could say, what had I seen? Until these days aren't loud. But now, without there being a lid, what would keep all these distances together? But no space. As in all these distances, without any space, would all pull together. And what would they pull together into? If not the one-bladed cap. Become instantly the light of the strange, without itself being witnessed. As it lurks into a state, that cubic dimension that elevates the property is the lid covering the exterior that cycles around and seems itself to be witnessed by an alluring state of impossibilities. As you take inside now the head capping, that each one of those marbles, even the one up on the side, and the ones floating in tide, are images of different galaxies. Maybe I can't say that word, it might be mitered and capped, which might be another fascinating documentary to level with one day. We'll call it Johnny's Recaps. I have to take on this difference. You could say that all those galaxies are spinning up. And as they spin, they're flicking each one away from the other one. Because as they're spinning up, this one here is circling the whole way around them all. So they're all heading towards it, and they're all going straight for the centre of it. So none of them are out of place, none of them are lost, and none of them are off balance. But as they go up, the space below them expands. So it's like they're getting further apart, because this one's going up, 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 and they're following in the same order. But as we're looking from this one down on it, then we can see that they're all coming straight towards us. But the space below them is the distance that they first started. So as we're looking from us down to it, then it looks like they're getting further apart from each other. Because this started here, it's going around to here as these go up. So that means that this one here had to first go around. In counterclockwise work, the weight that wasn't mated was the witnessing not taken. As for not being, there was no way to make it until the witness hadn't been seasoned. Then to take not the image as maintained or witnessed, then no action will be beaten within the significant area, without the name not being sanctioned. Because still I look at it as unclear. Unless that shape ain't just flat, it's a cube. Now if I could bust into that cube, look what becomes. To the eye. To the eye. We see the world as beholded, to be round. It's like looking at that pink diver there. That one right there at the bottom of the light. As that eyeball observing above itself the planet. What, in reverse spectra? Yes, mate. We only see the planet to be rounded because the shape of our eyeball is rounded. When you go from eyeball to eyeball, you get that same curve as when you look up to match the face. But really it's a whole round world above us, possibly in generation, just like that right there. That's the eyeball, and above us is the world. That's right. Remember, the world has to sit within the framework of what's suggested to be made. Now, of all the different worlds out there, if there wasn't someone with a lid on, then we'd all be sucked into the same void and live in the same critical creature, which we can't allow in season. That's right, mate. We're going to never allow that, mate. Everyone's going to be in their own journal, mate. Everyone's going to be on their own jogging out there, their own dating and their own dating. No one can be in the same way, mate. They can't be, mate. You can't have two blokes in the same way as what you're heading, mate. You can have two blokes. No, you can't, mate. Only one in the way, mate. You know, the one that's in the way is the one that's in the way. You can't see anything after that one that's in the way. Yeah, okay. But I still don't think that it's true. But I don't take myself as seated unless I'm not real. Now, it's like this some days. Other days, it's not matched. Unless it's not seen, then some days ain't named. Because if it's not real, then what's made out of it? And if it's not set by itself, then maybe there's no atmosphere that can't reveal itself. Unless that world that's my eye looking up. And all I see is the shape and form of the light, which shines off my eye and reveals that I'm blind. So it's like the eye now being this. And within this, I can weigh up any substance. You know, like within this, my cap, I can weigh up any planetary system, ecological cedar, or ecological server, and place it within the framework of my own model of conception and my own model of mind. Attach it to the lid with the headphones, and then go around bizarrely, and just live in my own dream place. But for some reason, I always will be shaken on what I've measured. Unless I make it perpendicular to act along all lines, and so inevitably placed, not take my own name. As in, the moment I lose my own name, I take a name like Beta Beta, then I could leave that to be Beta Beta's cap. And if anything hits me with my headphones on, even the birds chirping, or a travelling newspaper article that I read, I don't attach that to the name that's Beta Beta's. I keep that located to the person that I once was knowing of. But once my name is no longer my name and I take the name Beta's Beta's and it's Beta's Beta's cap, then Beta's Beta's cap can never be affected by the name that I once was wearing being taken by the article in the newspaper. And I could live in distortion and disaudience and take myself out of class. Or I could just reveal to myself that with the cap open, you know, not the cap locking it all down in the head frame, with the cap the other way, then when you sneeze, achoo, God bless you. It allows you to confess. And you tell the people what you've seen out there within your own conception and your mind modelling of fear. And the people might look at it and go, what I've seen actually is there's a flat base. Some planets or dimensions or distances might be relatively cross-axis higher than the other ones, you know, but there's a flat base. One planet rises to there, one planet only that much, another right up there, you know, another one's right down there. But there's a flat base, a medium. You know, we can't take it that we're looking out. We've got to take it that when I see that one there, the bottom of it is directly in line with the bottom of my feet. Because if I walk straight into it, then I'm going to meet that line there on the bottom and walk straight into it and land wherever I land on my jet. You know, land my jet on the water surface. Then I'm standing in my jet, which is perfectly level to the line of where I was standing here when I walked up the stairs to get into my jet. Yes, Daddy, that's very sufficient, Daddy. So if we take it on that way, then there's no longer everything spinning around. You know, galaxies moving and all that sort of stuff. There's no like, yep, this one. You now long just have a flat bottom. You know, you want a flat bottom, I think. And that might be better. So that cap that I'm wearing now today, it's got a flat bottom. But still, I look at it to say, well, let's say that white one in the center is my world that I live in. And I look from that one right to the one up the side of this bearing on the cap there. and take off. Go into the bottom and land right there on my feet. So the bottoms are all aligned. Well, it looks like they might have to be. Without the seating, then there'd be no way to image what one can't maintain. Now, it is hard what we predate and what we exclusively name. But for existence, there's only one way to really take. And within the picture and program of perfect evolution, of perfect evolutionary, and of perfect evolutionary, then we can't say that extreming is exclusive attentives of the disasters. For we can't find that there's not a thing without it being. And as we take for not this, then we take for not such a thing. For I couldn't say what it means. But at the same time, I'll ask now little Amy. Yes, Daddy. What do you think, little Amy? I think, Daddy, that's very interesting. Because some man-made worlds out there could have a whole different rotator system on, whole different coupling measure, whole different bead asserter, and a whole different maintenance problem. But if I just took out all that interest and placed them with the pot, you know, the lid on the bot, and they just walk straight into the one measure, then we'd all be living in the same light. You know, it'd be curiosity. And I mean, Daddy, that'd be so much easier. Be so much easier, Daddy. Really, Amy? Yes, Daddy. So much easier. But for some reason, everyone plays with their own mind. And maybe it's because we think, oh, that's not alongside us, Chris. Look at it, it's right up there. You know, our bottom's down here. You know, that bottom up there is like up the steps, you know. It's like that one's up there, then there's one down here, you know. You know, that even that bottom there, bottom's down here. That's still a bit of a level. It's like we've got to walk right up there or something. You know, just right get to the top. You know, spiral bloody staircase. That's right. But if we take the last step before the first step, so I mean the last step before the first step, then we can make the first step the last step. So the first step is I want to reach that height. That means the last step is I'm going to reach that height. So that height becomes this height. And there's no steps between. Then you can say, what's the landing? Well, the landing is I came this far. I made myself see that when I get to that height, I would have only come that far. To see within myself that I hadn't forgotten that I only came from one step to take no steps before I took the last step and said, that's where I wish to land. Then I make myself not seen. Because if I could dream, then that place is what I've made. Only for me to be real. And if it's not impossible, then I know my date won't be images taped. For my season, I ain't ever prettiness. It's not ever lost. It can't be claimed. It can't be faded. As you could say in many dimensions, some people's world is like that. And when they put their cap on, They're walking around in the rainbow down the shopping centre. 100,000 people in the bloody shopping area. And this one triggers. Boom, boom. He needs olives. Oh, this bloke looking for strawberries. Oh, he's on his way to do the groceries. Oh, he just hit a car in parking lot. Oh, he doesn't have insurance either. Oh, that's the bloke that he hit. That doesn't even know that he got hit. Because that's his registration number. Ah, yep. And you can make up the conceptions of whatever miraculously reserves you to be right and indeed. But unless you keep them to yourself, then they'll never be placed. No, I want that cap, mate. I want that cap, mate. That's so much better for security. Yeah. That's why One World went about it. To make up technology. You know, they needed cameras because they knew other people could see stuff that they couldn't see. And I was doing their head in. You know, how are those people doing that? How do they know that they hit their car? How do they know that there's no one watching? And they couldn't just take in that was bloody God. You know, when he walked past that bloke in the shopping centre. Oh, I don't know about that nick on the car I got done today. I don't know if it waxed up all right. You know, it's just God talking through that person to them. But they go, nah, that bloke's in my bloody head. He's seen me do it somehow. Then they want cameras themselves out there on the scene watching everyone. You know, they get all paranoid and shit. Yeah, that's right, mate. They might do, mate. They might do, mate. How could that be God talking through that person who got the ding on their car? Because God could talk like this. Hi, my name's Mary Johnston. I'm here for the interview. No. And really that person that God speaks in says, hi, Mary Johnston. Are you here for the interview? Nah, mate. That's not top-notch, mate. That's not top-notch, mate. That's not top-notch, mate. Well, it's like that day when he got... What did he say? Oh, his legs are late. No, mate, he said his legs are great. Ah, my bad. Must be something in. Well, that's what it's like when there's a recurring shade that no images could make. Without the name being seed, then there's no way to feed. Because with the lid on, it creates distance between the individual minds. Now you could say that one of those marbles in there is one person's mind. Yep. The next one is another person's mind. And all of them are different people's minds. You know, there's basically the caps on each one's individual head. But when there's a cap on the whole system, a lid on the whole system, that tunneling export that can store more disbeliefs and belief systems, more minds within itself, then it creates the distance between them. And they can't really associate to each other and connect as bounded. But one thing they all suggest to be the same is the sound of an influential rate. And not only that, but the race that rates make. But until they feature with themselves, they can't say that they want to be the same, unless they're getting separated from each other. And as they're getting more distance and distance from each other, then you'll find ones that are currently like grouped together. So one person seeing the same cap on a bargain sale, you know. So one bloke bought the cap for a high price. Then everyone's seen him walking around with that cap and they go, oh, he's got some money. But then they've seen it on bargain sale price when he just moved on, you know. He moved overseas or he lived up in a treehouse afterwards. Yep. They all bought it for a bargain price and they've all got pretty much the same hat. But it's not the same hat because he bought it for more expensive, you know. Yep. So they're sort of grouped together. But as he goes higher up the tree, then they all will get separate from having the same cap. Because it won't be the same cap anymore. Because he's the one that had the cap. And he's already moved on. Oh, yeah. So eventually they'll disorientate from each other and find themselves to be feeling like they're the one. You know, this is my cap, you know, I'm the original cap where, you know, no one else knows me. And that's because he was the one selected to be different. When they all said, yeah, we got it on bargain, but we know he paid more, he's got more money than us, he's a bit more wealthy. So they made him disorientated from themselves. He only bought that cap because it was on sale at the price store. And when he bought the cap, Everyone said, mate, that's a great cut.